Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. This is the Intangibles, and we are very happy to be talking to you today as we get even closer to the Chiefs season. And after a preseason game that I'm not really sure we can call a game, but Chiefs players did some stuff on a field. Joining me today, as always, is Christian Ainsworth. Christian, how are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing really good. This is actually the first time we've talked since training camp has ended. You were gone for that past week, and I couldn't get my Wi-Fi working. So I want to send a shout out to Paul and his wife and their friend Charles. I got to meet them up in St. Joe. Incredible people from South Dakota, avid watchers of the show. So if you guys are watching right now, there's your shout out that I promised you.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And joining us might be one of the more famous faces in Chiefs Kingdom. I can honestly say I have been on Sports Radio 810. I have been on 96.5 The Fan. I have done a lot of stuff here in Kansas City, but more people reach out to me when this man features my content than anybody else. People that I haven't talked to in like 10 years are like, hey, I saw you on How About the Chiefs? So joining us, it's Cole from How About Those Chiefs. Cole, how are you today?
What's up, guys? You can't use the F word, famous. That's insane. But I appreciate being on here and talking some Chiefs. It's an honor. It's my first time on the show, so let's freaking go, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the signature look, right? Like, I think that's something you've done so well. Besides just like having excellent camera work and editing skills, you've got a signature look. So, like, if people see you, there is no like, is that him? Is that not? It's like, oh no, that's the bald guy with the big red beard. I know him.
That's it. Can't escape me.
Branding is everything. Well, we do have some stuff to talk about. Today is going to be our very special Chiefs Take Purge. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but let's talk about a little bit of breaking news that happened here in the last couple of hours or so. ESPN's Nate Taylor put this out. The Chiefs are likely to put 2023 first-round pick Felix Anudike-Uzomah on the injured reserve, ending his season due to a hamstring injury. And I feel like probably the first question here is a hamstring injury. They did not specify. Maybe it's a partial or a full tear or something like that, and it is that serious. But I don't know about you guys, but my first reaction to this was, is this an injury that warrants a full IR stint? Christian, what do you think about that?
Oh, dude, you didn't see that he couldn't walk to the locker room after that game? Like he was really, really injured. It wasn't like a
to be clear,
injury.
I don't think that they're faking he's injured. I do believe he's injured. It's just a season-ending injury. I mean, you think about, like, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the Kingdom documentary on ESPN. You watch what Isiah Pacheco went through with his injury. That wasn't a season ender, right? And like, it's early in the season here. To me, it just makes me wonder if they're looking at this more as like, we aren't going to have a lot. We'd rather have the roster spot than FAU's contribution. What do you think, Cole?
I don't know, man. It's with the hamstring stuff. It could be a Dak Prescott thing. It could be an Elijah Mitchell thing, who missed all last year with a serious hamstring injury. I was concerned when I heard he could not walk to the locker room by himself. I mean, he had a trainer on each side and he couldn't put any weight on it. So I thought the writing was on the wall there, and I was bracing for this. I didn't want it to happen. Former first-round pick that has underwhelmed the first couple of years in the league. He's a younger guy, prospect, needs to develop. But the hope was the year 3 is where he kind of pops and shines a little bit, even though early signs he was low on the depth chart. He was even behind Ashton Gelati on the Chiefs' unofficial depth chart as well. So I was hoping for more and definitely bummed for him. And I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is just kind of saying, yeah, this pick has not worked out. And with him going to IR potentially for the full season here in year 3, it's definitely been a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, and with him too, like this time next year, the Chiefs will have made a decision on his fifth-year option, which seems highly unlikely that they will be picking it up at
I
this
don't think
point.
so.
And yeah, this just kind of felt like a make or break year for him, and we hadn't seen it in camp particularly. And to me, this just kind of goes back to you take a player, ask them to do something that they didn't do in college. FAU was one of the more quick and twitchy guys that they've drafted. A smaller guy. We've talked about it numerous times. The Big 12 defenses, they line up. A lot of times he was shaded head up over the guard or to the outside. So his burst worked there. But he wasn't necessarily asked to be a impact run stuffer. That's a little bit more of what you're going to be asked to do in a Spagnuolo defense. And he just did not have the necessary power, and the burst wasn't there enough for it to work. And it is unfortunate. We'll kind of talk about this in our take purge a little bit too about what transpired that night at the World War I Memorial and Union Station and how that worked out. But overall, it stinks for a guy who really need to have his spot locked up here. And now we kind of talk about like what's next. So the Chiefs are down an edge rusher. I think most of us had FAU as kind of locked into our overall 53-man roster projections, despite his shortcomings. Do we think that the Chiefs make a move here? Do we think that they bring in a street free agent? This is kind of that time, right? Like we saw Xavier Howard get signed. It looks like Dalton Reisner's visiting the Vikings, which kind of stinks because I think the Chiefs could really use just a high floor guard like Reisner. Do we think the Chiefs are kicking the tires on a Zadarius Smith or a Jadeveon Clowney, or are they just going to look in house?
Oh, go ahead,
Well,
Cole.
yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
if it's not
No,
if it's
you're
not my
good.
show, I'm never first to jump in. But
Oh, dude,
yeah,
you're the guest, man. We want your opinion here.
yeah, heck yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens because this is the second defensive end now placed on IR in the past week. Janarius Robinson broke something, a toe. I think Andy Reid quoted saying his little toe. He said it's his little toe, it's a pinky toe maybe, but he's on IR and now FAU. So I think you've got to do something. They did add Nate Matlack, the local Kansas Cityan last week, but I still think that's a depth guy you're trying to get through preseason with, not ruling out anything like him making the practice squad or something like that. But I think you need to explore some options, at least in the depth. You've got, I like the top end of the defensive end room. Dana, Karloftis, we'll see about Gelati. You have a Minihue. But after that, it does get a little shaky. Malik Herring had some standout plays last week. But yeah, I think you need to add somebody. I don't know if they wait for cut downs. They might bring in somebody soon just to kind of get through the last preseason game. But I'll be intrigued to see what happens next. I mean, that's for sure with the defensive end room.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here as far as I'm not sure if you're Steve Spagnuolo, you're looking at this. What was the impact the FAU is going to have? Probably playing 8 to 10 reps a game, anyways. So at that point, I think Malik Herring's probably just the guy. He's been on this roster for a couple of years. They've non-tendered him. He can probably bring the exact same impact that they were going to have. Now, me as a fan, me as someone who's rooting for the Chiefs, I would prefer to see actual impact player because I don't know about you guys. I've not really been elated by what I've seen from a Minihue this preseason. No, it's preseason, so it's early, but I, would love to see a Jadeveon Clowney or someone like that, just a mercenary brought in who can bring more juice because this pass rush, it lives and dies with Chris Jones as always. I think this probably means arrow pointing up a little bit for Ashton Gelati, who has definitely a bigger opportunity ahead of him to make an impact. And, I think like Cole pointed to on the depth chart, Gelati was already ahead of FAU, so it looked like that had already happened. But if you're talking about ways that this can impact the roster, I think keeping that extra defensive lineman like Herring is probably one of them, and then maybe a street free agent. I think that there's a couple of places right now that Chiefs could be kicking the tires on a street free agent, safety and guard as well too.
Well, yeah, I think it's important too. You look at some of these guys. I mean, Chiefs have 17 million in cap space right now. So getting a Matt Judon, getting a Jadeveon Clowney, those are all. I mean, there are a reason these guys are still on the market, obviously. But one of those reasons is for teams that have injuries and are looking to improve right before the season starts. So Brandon Graham, Jadeveon Clowney, Matt Judon, all guys I think who could be perfect for the Steve Spagnuolo system.
And that's the thing with defensive ends is just you can plug and play those guys pretty quickly, even in Spags' complex system. Like, hey, come in on third down and rush the passer, and we'll figure it out over the next handful of weeks as you get acclimated. So it could definitely happen.
And we've seen them do this too, right? They did this with Carlos Dunlap, and they did this with Melvin Ingram in a way too. So they might go back to that well. In other news, it looks like we were kind of speculating is Andy Reid changing his stripes now that everyone's starting to adopt the Chiefs pattern of actually playing their starters in the preseason. Andy Reid zigs and doesn't play them in week 2 of the preseason. Now it's pretty obvious to me they didn't like that turf up there. They didn't like that it was raining, and Clark Hunt said like, "Hey, let's hold them back so we can actually have some moderate attendance at this preseason game number 3 here in Arrowhead in front of the fans." So it does look like some of the starters, if not most of the starters, will be suiting up in preseason game week 3. Which, just a reminder, we will have pre and post game for that game on Friday. So be checking out the Arrowhead Addict channel as we kind of go through everything, and hopefully it will not be over at midnight like the previous game was. So just any reaction, Christian, to the starters playing here in week 3?
No, I mean, it's a breath of fresh air for Chiefs fans, right? Like if you didn't make it out to St. Joe or, you were working or something, it's going to be nice to see the starters come out and play on the home field. Like I'm hyped. I'm excited to go out there. I've actually got a ticket, so I'll be in the stands. I think that's the whole point of the off season, or the preseason rather, is, getting to see your guys play, seeing how the team is starting to advance, and then, getting excited for the season.
Yeah, I definitely think, especially when we're talking about the offensive line, it's probably not a bad idea for them to get a few more extra reps. And let's actually go there real quick with the game in Seattle. There's not a lot to take away from that game. That's one of those that you just kind of burn the tape. It's very clear that the Seahawks were very interested in, measuring themselves against the measuring stick that is the Chiefs. You've got guys on the stands like hyping up the crowd and stuff like that. Props to them. I know that they're working on, establishing a culture with a new head coach and everything. But let's all just kind of go round robin here and try to establish something that we actually thought was something you could take away from a game that had almost no takeaways. And I'll lead off, and that is the safety rotation. I think a lot of us went into the season, if we were talking about who is the Chiefs breakout player for this season, one of the most frequent names brought up was Jaden Hicks. Led the teams in interceptions last year, was really high up in a lot of the draft ratings. I know he was, Dane Brugler's #1 overall safety in that class. And it looked like this was his opportunity to take over the Justin Reid role. They're similar builds. They play a similar type of game, close to the line of scrimmage. And I even brought this up. In the playoffs last year, Jaden Hicks outsnapped Brian Cook. They were playing more Jaden Hicks and Justin Reid than they were Justin Reid and Brian Cook. Well, it appears that Shamari Connor's move out of the slot, which he is still playing some slot, but predominantly is putting him at safety. Right now, the safety rotation looks like it is Shamari Connor and Brian Cook, which there's some limits with athleticism there. There's some limits with, I would say splash plays as well too, like we've gotten from Jaden Hicks. But I feel like we're kind of coming back to just the Steve Spagnuolo, like we want our guys in the right place, and we want to make sure they're calling the right defense. And maybe we know that the Chiefs run a lot of 3 safety sets anyway, so maybe Jaden Hicks will be playing quite a bit. But right now, early on in the going, Shamari Connor is getting similar treatment to many of the other like leading players on this team, like George Karlaftis. He's getting yanked with those guys in the preseason, not sticking out there like Jaden Hicks well into the third quarter.
Well, yeah, it's important to note too, Shamari Connor's no scrub back there at safety. Like he was legit his rookie year. He had a 70.2 coverage grade from PFF. Like it wasn't like how he's performed in the slot last year. So I think being multiple is something else that Spagnuolo likes, and having somebody who they can rotate down, play that nickel safety role, play free safety, play strong safety, or the slot is going to be really important. I don't know if Jaden Hicks is not there yet, or if they want to reserve him for that like hybrid dime linebacker look where he can come up and make plays and be in the box a lot. But I think this is a better step in the right direction for Shamari Connor as well, who's had some struggles.
Cole, what's something that you were able to glean from a game that there wasn't much gleaning from?
Sure. Just to piggyback on the safety stuff, now there's a couple injuries too. Mike Edwards with the hamstring, Deion Bush tore his Achilles. So I am a little concerned about the depth in that room. A little surprised. Yeah, Jaden Hicks hasn't seen as many snaps as he has, but you guys have kind of covered the rest there. I think something, an offensive takeaway, there's a lot of people, they have the right to be concerned, and I'm concerned too, but there's some concern there at the left guard spot. Kingsley's had 3 bad quick losses and 12 pass pro snaps and over 2 preseason games. And again, it's a small sample size. He's young, just switched to the interior last year after basically playing tackle his entire college career, and then they tried him there last year early, and he got Trey Hendrickson is what I like to say. Trey Hendrickson came into the picture, and he didn't really recover from that. So there's some concerns there. I think Josh Simmons is looking great, but Kingsley, those 3 bad losses, quick losses, that's going to impact you this season on key downs if you can't work through those growing pains. I'm just going to stay hopeful and optimistic that he does, because he's never played the position, and they've been working him at it, and they keep saying good things about him, but it's just like, okay, I just need to see it at a higher consistency. So this week is really what I'm watching for. When the starters are out there again, can we just see no super bad quick losses from Kingsley? And that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's the way in which he loses. I highlighted a snap on my Twitter of where I think Josh Simmons loses, but the loss is slow and painful rather than a quick loss. Kingsley Suamataia is batting about 50% when it comes to if it's a pass set, if it's a win or a loss. That's not really acceptable. Right. Like, it's kind of, I've used this analogy before. It's like the anti-terrorism group, right? You can't you can't miss, right? Like, you can't be like, oh, we bet we got half of them, we stopped half of the terrorists from attacking our country. No, no misses, right? Like that's kind of the expectation, or it's 1 or 2. And it is all related to pass protection, run blocking. He looks really good. He looks like, you see that athleticism, you see the strength, but he cannot keep his feet balanced and coordinated underneath him. He's constantly getting like top heavy and leaning and waist bending, and it's leading to a lot of trouble. And realistically with him, the question just becomes of, at what point is this not worth exploring more? Yes, he's not played guard for very long, but also he went into this offseason with the plan of him being guard. He was taking reps at guard during the last season. He played a game in week 18 as a guard. At some point you have to say, what is the best 5 that we're going to put out here? I don't know if that's Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore's not played guard in the NFL either. He hasn't played guard even in college. He was a tackle. Is that just putting Mike Caliendo in there? And it's like, again, none of us love the idea of Mike Caliendo being the starting left guard for 17 games, but also we know that he's not going to be a disaster because we've seen it, even with Joe Thuney at left tackle. The Chiefs open up the season with Jalen Carter, Justin Madubuike, Dexter Lawrence, some really great pass rushes. And while the Chargers don't have a great pass rush, they do have a very complex system that they send a lot of simulated pressures. They show a lot of different things. They are going to hone in on that left side of the line and throw everything at them. We saw one of the struggles that happened with Josh Simmons recently in a preseason game was them being able to handle a stunt and passing off blockers. That's going to be the focus there, right? So more than anything, they've got to get it figured out. And I think they got to get it figured out fast.
Oh, yeah. It's important, too. Like, that stunt issue that they were having, that started back in camp. One of the first days I was there, I think you might have been there as well. I grabbed that footage of Kingsley and Simmons trying to pass that off. And that takes reps, obviously. Left guard isn't a position you can really platoon guys in and swap it out like defensive line is. So you want that cohesion so that they can communicate and, hand that stuff off. They have gotten better at it, I think, than when they started. I mean, that was a consistent loss for them in training camp. But again, this is why you have the preseason. Lots and lots of reps. Throw as much at them as you can. Get as many reps as they can without getting injured. Go into the season, hopefully, in the best shape you can be.
And my concern there, too, is from the depth spot again. If, let's say, Trey gets banged up or something, and you still don't know what you have in Kingsley, Caliendo can fit in, but you mentioned Dalton Reisner. Like, some sort of a veteran interior lineman might not be a bad idea. Hunter Norzad, I think, would be one of the next guys up along the interior. He can kind of move all around over there, but I don't know what they're going to do. It's still early, but there's some concerns there. I think any fan that's concerned has some legitimacy to the thought process.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just the heaviest the head that wears the or heaviest the head that wears the crown. Yeah, that's what the phrase is.
Yeah.
If you're the Panthers, if you're the Bears, if you're some of these other franchises, you're okay with Kingsley Suamataia taking his lumps. But the Chiefs, they don't have that, right? Like, they hit the ground running against the current defending Super Bowl champions. The expectation is win a Super Bowl. You see that on the Kingdom documentary. Like, so if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's a failure. Yes. Like, that's they there's no luxury there for them. Christian, why don't you give your one takeaway from the preseason game?
So my biggest takeaway here was the run defense. And I know that's kind of, the obvious one, sort of the squeaky wheel that we're going to talk about here. But 268 rushing yards on 48 attempts is awful. And I understand that we didn't have Nick Bolton or Drew Tranquil out there. So that's kind of, a big issue. Chris Jones wasn't there as well. So you can kind of factor that in, although he's never been, a defensive monster at stopping the run. But those are big issues. And I think that kind of will translate into these first couple of weeks if we don't see, something happen along those lines, whether it's signing a defensive end or a defensive tackle to replace FAU or, getting some of those guys more reps. But low key, kind of good for Nick Bolton here. I know a lot of trash talk has been thrown his way, but you see how bad that run defense is without him on the field, and it's egregious. So, kind of a low key winner here of the preseason, Nick Bolton, who hasn't played a whole lot.
You actually took the words right out of my mouth. I said that Nick Bolton contract looks better and better every time I see Jack Cochran run on that field, baby. That was tough. That was tough. There was a time that they were averaging like 10 yards a carry. That is no bueno. And Mike Pennell was in that game. Omar Norman-Lott was in that game, right? So I certainly think that and let's be clear, the Seahawks have been trying to rebuild an offensive line since freaking Richard Sherman played for them. It's been a long time, and they've invested some real capital in there, and I am pretty bullish on some of the guys that they've brought in this year. I think it'll be a better group. But that was tough. And again, I think Leo Chanel, Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, for the love of God, please stay healthy, because there's not a lot to get really excited behind them other than Jeffrey Bassa, which that's not really his role either, although he has done a pretty good job of shooting some gaps. At least you can see the athletic upside there. When it comes to Cochran and who's the other one that's been running around out there? Jack Cochran and
Christensen, maybe?
Yeah, Cole Christensen. Yep.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. That was scary to see for sure. And it's very clear that the Chiefs were just trying to get out of town without some injuries. And unfortunately, they did sustain some. Noah Williams in the concussion protocol. We mentioned Mike Edwards to the hamstring strain. We mentioned FAU. Some good news on the injury front. It does look like Hollywood Brown practiced yesterday and is back at practice again today. Andy Reid was a little skeptical of if he would be playing on Friday night. Can't really blame the man after how Hollywood Brown's last preseason game went. With the development of the Rashee Rice legal case, I do think that there's an actual chance that in Brazil, we will see for the first time in over a year planning, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice on the field together with Travis Kelce. That will be something to look forward to. But we're going to go ahead and shift gears here a little bit. We teased it a little bit. We do this once a year. This is the Chiefs Take Purge. Everything that we're about to say here, you can't hold us accountable for. We didn't say it. It wasn't me. Sometimes we just have these things in our mind that we want to say, but we would never actually write in an article or put it out on our very, very popular YouTube channel like Cole, or out on Twitter, because, we would be burned at the stake for it. But sometimes you just got to get it out, right? Sometimes you just got to say things that you might not actually believe, and see what happens. So we're going to be doing the Chiefs Take Purge today. These things, they just boil up inside of us, and we have to do it. So with that being said, anything that we say when the siren sounds, we cannot be held responsible for.
This is not a test. This is your emergency podcast system announcing the commencement of the biannual Chiefs Take Purge. All takes, including things you don't actually believe, will be legal during this segment. No players, coaches, or media members of any kind will be granted immunity. All rational thought, logic, and credibility will be suspended. The Arrowhead Addict Podcast Network thanks you for your cooperation. May our take God Skip Bayless be with you all.
All right. I get chills every time I hear it. The Purge, it has begun, and I would like to start off once again with something that I feel in my soul. Xavier Worthy isn't that fast. Okay? I know it's 4.21 speed. Every time I've watched Tyreek Hill. Okay? I've seen Tyreek Hill. I know what fast is. And Xavier Worthy's just not that fast. I think he's like fast, but I don't think he's like fastest man in the NFL fast. Like he's the only 99 speed in Madden. I've seen this guy get run down from behind. I just feel like he is not that fast. I said it.
That's insane, dude. What are you talking about? He's the fastest man. Taylor Swift herself said he's the fastest man in the NFL. Okay, whatever our queen says goes. She can't possibly be wrong.
I'm just saying, I just feel like there's not enough plays there where like his acceleration really shows up. If he's the fastest man in the NFL, I feel like I should feel that gravity more. And
Dude,
it's not
the first play in the NFL was like he cut right through everybody. That was like the defining moment of his career so far.
I feel like that
weaving, dude. Like
I
throughout
feel
the
like
defense.
I feel like he is McCole Hardman fast, very very fast, much faster than me. I don't know why all of a sudden I switched to Donald Trump here. Very very fast, fastest guy, not the fastest man in the NFL. I just weird. But I don't know. I just don't see the fastest man in the NFL. And I'm gonna stick by it. Okay, I think he is just really, really good at running the combine speed, like track background, all those things. It was a really slick field or really fast field that year. Like I remember them talking about the combine times were going to be really down because they're getting ready to replace the turf. I just think he ran an incredibly good 40. Obviously, he's very fast. He can stretch the field for you, all those type of things. I just don't think he's 99, the fastest man in the NFL.
I mean, you're entitled to that take, and obviously we'll forget all this when it goes out. But I would not have put that out. I'm gonna be honest, Price.
Okay,
I would have kept that in the notes.
Okay, Christian, go ahead.
All right, for a real hot take here, and I am correct, and I might even talk about this after the siren sounds. Steve Spagnuolo deserves more credit for the Chiefs dynasty than Andy Reid does. And I'm gonna say this for a few reasons. Okay, all of Spag's postseason moments we put into this lump sum of like the defense showed up, right? On offense, Mahomes is that clutch guy, but Spags is the guy we look to on defense to be clutch. It's not one single player that you're like, oh my God, Nick Bolton just took over this game outside of the Eagles Super Bowl where he had 2 fumble recoveries for touchdowns. But you look at Andy Reid's postseason success before Mahomes, like it's not all that great. No Super Bowls won. I mean, he had great regular seasons, but he was never that guy who like dialed up the play in the final moments to like send them over the top. That's Steve Spagnuolo. You look at those Super Bowls that he had against the 49ers, held him to 20 points in the first one, LIV, and then LVII held him to 22. Like that's insane for one of the best offenses in the league. He's done a fantastic job. It seems like every postseason he just locks them in and we get insane defensive play. If you look at how the Chiefs team has been constructed, it's around the defense now. Like Andy Reid's the head coach. He's the offensive coordinator, but Steve Spagnuolo is the one carrying the load over the past couple of years. Like I think we need to be talking about him a lot more than maybe Andy Reid.
Man, I don't know, dude. Like, here's what I'll say. I do think that you have an argument on the sense of the Chiefs have been a defensive team the last 2 years that they've went to the Super Bowl and won one. But also, if you go back and look, like Patrick Mahomes is one of the I can't remember the stats, it's Scott Kaczmar's stat, but in 2022, he was like the first quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl when his defense allowed more than 20 points every game in the playoffs. I think that there certainly needs to be a recognition of what he's done and how good he has been in big moments. I think that's the thing, is that he always has a fastball to lean back and grab. Like that's not easy considering you play a whole season and the playoffs, but he's got this perfect blitz dialed up at the perfect time. That's special. But respectfully, Andy Reid is the biggest part of bringing in Patrick Mahomes and developing him, and none of this is possible without Patrick Mahomes. You know, I've seen a lot of teams with a lot of great defenses have their quarterback and their offense shit the bed when it matters most, and they lose 12-9 or whatever. But like it's kind of like, it reminds me of Frank Clark a little bit too. Like Frank Clark, not very good in the regular season, but had all these postseason accolades. So he becomes this historic figure in Chiefs Kingdom. And it's like, well, Frank Clark is Frank Clark because of Patrick Mahomes, not because it's not like Frank Clark willed these sacks to be happening in postseason games. If Frank Clark played on the Browns, you wouldn't think he's a very good player, but because he plays with Patrick Mahomes, now he gets this opportunity to do so. I
mean, I guess I would still credit that to Steve Spagnuolo. I mean,
Respectfully,
he was not great.
you
Who's
said
dialing
that.
up the blitzes, man? Like,
Well, yeah, but
somebody's got to take that credit.
you said Andy Reid was, a postseason failure until Steve Spagnuolo showed up. It just happens to be that Andy Reid, and it just happens that Patrick Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo's tenure are mostly overlapped, right? Because I think we could all tell in 2018 that they needed a new defensive coordinator. But I also think that we could tell in 2018 that Patrick Mahomes was the prince that was promised, right? At that point, he had gone toe to toe with Brady twice and had lost in overtime. And if D Ford can line up on sides, he might have been in another Super Bowl. So I don't know. This one's tough. It's hard too because what you're saying isn't crazy. It's oh, he deserves more credit than he gets. Totally agree with that. I think he'll be the first Hall of Fame coordinator, which there's not been one before. But in the same breath, it starts and ends with Andy. That's where it is. So
Cole, speak some sense into this man before we move on. Let him know why he's wrong. I mean, clearly, right?
I just think timing is the most important thing to everything, and it's a 1A, 1B. And I'm not great at hot takes, guys. I built my entire channel off of not doing hot takes and just looking at things logically. But Spags and Andy and Mahomes, Chris Jones, Kelsey, a lot of things coming together at the right time. I'm not gonna give you a good hot take with that, but I think they both play a very vital role to the Chiefs dynasty. And coaching is something year in and year out that the Chiefs don't have a lot of turnover with. And I think that's very key to the run that they've been able to go on year in and year out.
To put a bow on it, I think probably one of Andy's best traits is bringing in a defensive coordinator that can run the defense as their own unit, and Andy doesn't have to dabble, right? He knows Spags is going to take care of it. He doesn't have to worry about that. That way he can sit in there and cook up plays and run the offense, because that's what he wants to do anyways. So, historically, Andy Reid has not brought in, the young hotshot defensive mind. He's bringing in guys who have done it before. Bob Sutton was another one of those guys who was an established DC that could run and take care of things on his own and basically be the head coach of the defense. So, Cole, let's see what you can churn out here. Any intrusive thoughts? Anything that you think might be a little bit of a Chiefs hot take here?
I mean, here's one that I'll just throw out there. The Chiefs offense will be better after Travis Kelce is gone. At least better than the last couple of years. We're just trying to go hot takes. I'm going to try to give you my argument. Just Kelce, yes, one of the best tight ends to ever play the game, but the last 2 years, just not the same. With the injuries, the stuff that they've had to do to overly rely on him, it's kind of shown hey, he is past his prime years. That's not a hot take in and of itself, but the identity shift that we could see after Kelce having to rely on multiple guys, or maybe having capital to invest, because Kelsey's cap hit this year, 20 million. So the ability to invest in more firepower from multiple directions with Rice working in the slot there. That's a hot take that I don't know that I believe in or even like to say, but we're doing this purge segment that is causing me to kind of speak out of my normal self here.
That's perfect, dude. You have the spirit of it. You hit the nail on the head. Not public. What are your intrusive thoughts here? I think you're right. I think there's a real shot that the offense gets better after Travis Kelce, or maybe if Travis Kelce's in that Jerick McKinnon role, you know what I mean? Where he's you save him for the postseason. He's basically a break glass in case of emergency type guy. But dude, I see it, especially after last year when you really saw him slow down, and then in the playoffs, kind of, you could tell the fatigue was setting in a little bit more than in years past. I think that's a legit take.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, I think we've already seen this to be true, Cole. I mean, I know you said you try not to do too many hot takes, and I think you might be pretty rooted here. Let's run over the first 4 games of the Chiefs season last year. 27 points against Baltimore, 26 points against Cincinnati, 22 points against Atlanta, and then 17 points. That's where Rashee Rice gets hurt. I think the first 3 games of last year, you saw what an offense constructed around Rashee Rice looked at. Doing the film study and stuff I do for FTN, the Chiefs were running way more RPO empty sets. RPOs, empty sets because you cannot run an RPO out of an empty set. But they were using a ton of those motions to feature Rashee Rice. And I do think that this was a Rashee Rice offense. And when he went down for the whole year, they had to pull the panic button, which started to becoming a Travis Kelce offense because they did not have Hollywood Brown because Xavier Worthy was a rookie. And also, I just point back to this. I always look at this like, I feel like guys, they kind of have their style, their type of players that they like to highlight. If you go and look at Patrick Mahomes in college, he was not a big guy as far as throwing to the tight end position. A lot of his top receivers were all pass catchers. Like Kiki Kuti, Jonathan Giles, like those were the guys that all wide receivers that he was throwing to. You had to scroll down a long way to find a tight end. Now, part of that was the system that they were playing. That's back classic air raid there with Kingsbury back in college. But I do think that it would be productive to see what this offense looks like when it's not so tight end centric, especially because Travis Kelce can't do some of the same things that he used to do. So I do think that there's some reality there. And again, I feel like it's warranted even.
The counter to the Rice thing too was with Kelce on the field. He was able to produce all that. So it's like there's a big question mark of like we don't really know, but there's a hot take, quote unquote, that I'll try to float out there. I had to force that out.
So who's next, Price? What's our next?
Okay, here we go. Believe me, I've got plenty. All right, this one I feel like at this point it's not even a hot take. I typed this stuff out before the news of today. Clark Hunt got on the phone and told Brett Veach, you are picking in the 2023 NFL draft first round. Don't even think about trying to trade down and take my sweet, sweet Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, Brian Branch, Joey Porter Jr. Nope. We're taking the kid from Lee Summit. I feel like most people believe this now. I am not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to this type of stuff. And, I thought FAU was a valid pick at the time. Obviously, we've gained a lot more information. I'm comfortable with using the B word, the bust, on him, that this pick is a bust now. And there was a lot of warning signs there as far as what they were asking him to do compared to the player he was coming out. At the end of the day, man, I don't see how you look at where they were in that draft and see them wanting to get out. I think they wanted to get up for Anton Harrison. I know that there was some reporting around Mozzie Smith at the time too, which also thank God they didn't do that. But now it's very obvious that the best thing they could have done is traded down with many of those guys who went after him, right? Really the best pick in that whole draft is Rashee Rice at this point, and the rest of it's kind of a miss, which is fine. Like drafting is hard and those type of things. But at the end of the day, I don't see why they would have made that pick where they did.
I mean, I can see that, I guess. But to me, I mean, K-State isn't even a real college, is it? Like, I mean, there are a few good players that go there every year, but that's not like...
It's the Take Purge. It's the Chiefs Take Purge. Don't alienate our great fans from Manhattan, okay? Dude. And you, respectfully, you put some respect on national champion quarterback who came from Kansas State, played for Ohio State. There's a lot of great players. Darren Sproles, DJ Giddens is going to light it up. Starting center for the Cowboys. There's a lot of good K-State players. It's a real
okay. All right. I mean, as a Mizzou alum, I couldn't let that slide, dude. I can't give you that.
I'm going to be looking forward to watching them play in Ireland this weekend with Avery Johnson. It's be exciting.
That is going to be a sick game. No, I mean, the FAU pick forced by Clark Hunt, I mean, I think that's a little outlandish, but I can at least see where you're coming from. Like, local guy. Didn't he grow up, was he from Blue Springs, maybe? Was that his high school? Or am I?
Yeah,
Lee Summit. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I like the story, but, I mean, Clark Hunt seems like a guy who values winning over just about anything else at this point. So, I don't know if he'd tank a pick just for the storyline.
To be clear, I don't think that, like, it's not like they took some kid who, like, let's put it this way. If the evaluation was somewhat close, I think he got the kiss. You know what I'm saying? If they're like, hey,
okay.
We've got 4 or 5 guys on our board. We like Michael Mayer, we like Brian Branch, we like I know that they liked Keon White, who would have even been a better pick. But this kid from Lee Summit, and we're picking in the first round, okay, we're taking him.
Well, I think it's important too. We're kind of shitting on him a lot here. Dude, he was a legit. I think a lot of people had him graded as like a late first, early second round guy. Yeah, so it's not like that he was just some bomb that they picked up. No, he was a legit player. He had legit reps. He just didn't really fit the Steve Spagnuolo mold, I guess.
Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was valid at the time. I remember not being upset walking out of the Memorial or Union Station that night. Here, I'll throw another one out here. We've been negative, so I'll throw a positive one out here. I'm a big fan of zigging when everyone zags. Okay, 2 years ago, for some reason, everyone tried to burn my house down because I told them that Kareem Hunt would be an upgrade over Isiah Pacheco. This was 2 years ago, right? And then the pendulum has swung more and more. And then, like, in the weirdest reality, Kareem Hunt came back to the Chiefs, and we actually got to see that, and everyone agreed with me. And now we've gotten to the point that, like, Isiah Pacheco's stock is at an all-time low. Like, he's uploading these videos of him route running with these, like, weird hip cuts and stuff. It gives a lot of people the ick. Everyone's so out on Isiah Pacheco. So now this is where the zig comes, okay? Isiah Pacheco, 1,400 scrimmage yards this season. It happens, okay? I think the offensive line is going to be better. And I mean, 1,400 scrimmage yards, that's passing and receiving, right? So basically what I'm calling for is over 1,000 yards rushing and then, around 300, 350 yards receiving. He's come close to doing that as far as a receiver goes. I'm in on it. I think he's very clearly the lead back in this offense. I think Kareem Hunt's role will be very defined for him as a passing down and short yardage guy. I've not seen much from Brashard Smith to tell me that he's going to be cutting into those reps for Isiah Pacheco. And then the late great Therese Paylor said it best. Contract year is undefeated. Had a little bit of burst there on that rail route in Seattle. I'm all in. Okay. Isiah Pacheco, it's a big year. Take him in your fantasy drafts. He might just be back.
In an Andy Reid offense, I don't know how. If I'm going to counter, it's just like in a running back by committee offense that because you have Patrick Mahomes throws more than almost any other team in the league. I'm not buying that one. I want him to have a great year, but 1,400 is a lot.
That's a very polite way to put that. That's thank you for being so polite, dude.
My thought is this, is that I don't know that I see someone who's going to really push him for those carries besides Kareem Hunt. I don't think it's Elijah Mitchell. I don't think it's Brashard Smith. I don't think it's Carson Steele. And I also just think it's about health more than anything. The last time the Chiefs had a 1,000-yard rusher was Kareem Hunt when he did his rookie year with Alex Smith. Then Kareem Hunt gets in trouble, gets kicked off the team. Then, you get that great Damian Williams run. And then from then on, the reason why they haven't had a running back rush for 1,000 yards isn't because Andy Reid doesn't pick a guy. He's actually pretty good about picking a guy and sticking with them. It's just been injuries. Isiah Pacheco got hurt in 2020 or in 22 when he was drafted. It was a mixture of CEH. CH basically loses the job to Pacheco halfway through the year. 23 doesn't happen because Pacheco gets injured for a while. Not a huge chunk, but some. And that's as close as he's come to 1,000 yards. And then same thing with 24, right? And then in between there, CEH couldn't stay healthy back when it looked like he could potentially be that guy to have a 1,000-yard season. So I do think he will get the opportunity. So take him in your fantasy drafts.
All right, whatever you say, Price. 1,400 is crazy, but whatever you say.
Scrimmage.
Cool. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I have one. Everybody's talking about the Chiefs dynasty coming to an end. Okay, because Kelsey, Chris Jones not getting any younger. Neither is Andy Reid. But what if the Chiefs? Here's the take. The Chiefs become even more dominant post Andy Reid. They give up draft capital. They trade for somebody like McVay or some young guy, and in that 2.0 of the Chiefs dynasty, it unlocks a little something extra in Patrick Mahomes.
I'm so into this. I'm so glad you said it, man. I'm so into this. Once a day, like the two Chiefs-centric thoughts I have once a day. One is imagine Jamal Charles with Patrick Mahomes. That comes in my head every day. And the other thought is Sean McVay is going to head to the booth like a year or two before Andy retires. And then Clark Hunt's going to do the same thing that he did with Andy Reid. He's not going to Clark Hunt's going to step into the Fox booth. Hopefully because they fired Tom Brady, who's awful at his job. That's not a take purge. I want that in the ether. He's terrible at being a color commentator. But he's going to lock him in the booth and be like, hey, you're not leaving. Okay. You're the next head coach of the Chiefs. Come coach Patrick Mahomes and Josh Simmons, who by then will be an all-pro. Also not a take purge. And Yeah, McVay or Shanahan. And I get what you're saying too. Like, oh, Patrick Mahomes right now, he is the jazz musician, right? He improvises, and him and Kelsey together, they're like this great jazz band that has been playing together for years and just knows with a hand signal that, oh, we're going to go back to the coda or whatever. But McVay, Shanahan, there's structure. And as Patrick Mahomes starts losing some mobility and gets to the other side of his career, it could be a little bit more of a park and bark, a Jimmy G, a Jimmy, or Brock Purdy, or even what Matt Stafford's doing, and they start running the ball more effectively. I'm all in this, and I think one of the biggest things about coaching too is ownership. People really admire the Hunt family and really admire how they run their franchise. And people want to play for them. Despite how things went in the mid 2010s, the Chiefs have had a great line of head coaches. Schottenheimer, Dick Vermeil, those were guys who were highly respected coaching names. And obviously that's not including how this franchise began. So I totally could see it. And maybe we don't know that guy yet, right? Like right now we're talking about it. Like for all we know, that name could be Matt LaFleur, or it could be a guy who's just got hired this year. It could be, but I'm all in on the fact that some head coach could kind of bring something new to it. But I think the reality is, and this is not a take purge, we all know who the next head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs is. And he's the offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy. I feel very confident about that. And Cole
back.
Okay, well, while he's here, let's talk crap about him.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he is kind of
for the audio people listening. I just left the room. I left my office completely, walked away from the mic, and debated just going home.
Not a take purge. I think Matt Nagy could be a good head coach. Actually, he went to the playoffs twice with Mitch Trubisky.
Mitchell Trubisky,
yeah,
the GOAT.
I think people hate. First off, the over-romanticization, if that's a word, over-romanticization, that's like 15 syllables, of Eric Bieniemy, because he just had Patrick Mahomes in his prime with Kelsey and Hill. And then, 2022, which was like the 1 year that he wasn't. But I do think that is the most likely outcome. And I think unless Matt Nagy gets some great opportunity before Andy Reid steps down, I feel like that's the way that this is heading.
Dude, I love that take so much. Price, does he have access to our Google Doc for the show? Because that's one of my points on here. Is it's Mahomes won't win another MVP until Andy Reid retires. Like, there's this thing with Andy Reid where it's like his system elevates. There's always this sort of symbiotic relationship. Like, you can't talk about Patrick Mahomes without talking about Andy Reid. MVP is this narrative-based award, and I think that once you see Pat Mahomes without Andy Reid, if he has like a 4,000 yard season, I think that will be enough that people will say, okay, he can do it without Travis Kelce. He can do it without Tyreek Hill. He can do it without Andy Reid. And that's when we'll see him get that MVP. But let me tell you, if Matt LaFleur is Sean McVay is the head coach of the Chiefs in a few years, that blows this narrative out of the water, because then it doesn't really help him all that much.
He's old. His back hurts. He can barely walk. He's about done. You don't want to restart. You want to go to Kansas City and have they're not trading Mahomes, so you might as well just go to Kansas City and just take over.
I do get what you're saying a little bit, though, as far as like I think your statement of Patrick Mahomes won't win another MVP, not a bold statement, because he's already won 2. There's not a lot of guys who have won more than 2. That's just a fact, right? And then also, it is a narrative award. And you think about some of the superstar quarterbacks that there are in the league, like it's very possible that Jalen Hurts could win an MVP. It's got a great cast. It's very possible for Lamar or Josh Allen to get another. Joe Burrow hasn't gotten one, and he played well enough statistically to have one if it wasn't for the lack of team success for his team. I don't think the causation and correlation there are, though, because of Andy Reid. I don't think Andy Reid. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying a little bit, though, because like the same thing happened with Matt Nagy. Andy Reid dials up this great play where he's got Xavier Worthy wide ass open. He runs into the end zone. Wow, Andy, what a great play call. Then it's 4th and 1, and everyone in the world knows that they're going to run that fullback dive. Matt Nagy, how could he call it? How could he call it? It's like, okay, you don't get to do that, all right? Like, Andy calls all the good plays, and then like, no, I saw that was a Matt Nagy play. You can just tell. Like, that's the same thing that happens. And I think that's the same plague that made Eric Bieniemy struggle to get a job too. Is like, well, how much of this is Eric Bieniemy and how much of this is Andy Reid? So I do get what you're saying a little bit, that like Andy Reid kind of steals the oxygen out of the room for Patrick Mahomes a little bit.
Well, and let me just ask you this question. When you talk about Josh Allen and his MVP case, is it because of or in spite of Sean McDermott as the head coach? Because I think a lot of the narrative around that is Sean McDermott's a defensive guy. He hasn't necessarily performed well in the playoffs. And Josh Allen's the dude that's carrying this team. And then you look at like John Harbaugh and the Ravens, and it's like he gets it done in the regular season. But when it comes to the postseason, like he just can't get everything to work together. It's on Lamar to make up that difference. And then when you talk about the Chiefs, one of the biggest talking points around why Mahomes is overrated, quote unquote, is because he has Andy Reid. I think that when you take that away, it gives this narrative shift of like, oh, now he's doing it in spite of Matt Nagy as the new head coach. Like I just think
you gotta stop saying that, dude. You gotta stop saying that.
I think first off, and again, I will just revisit this because Cole did. If the Chiefs are a top 5 offense this year, you know how many people will give Matt Nagy credit? Exactly zero.
Yeah.
You know how many people will give Matt Nagy blame if this is a top 15 defense? All of them. All of them will. Yeah. So that's frustrating. But I will go back to your comment about Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's lack of postseason success does fall at the feet of Sean McDermott. And I mean, part of it is his defenses don't show up. Patrick Mahomes carves up his defenses every year. That's one of my favorite Bills fans arguments of like, oh, well, his number one overall defense gets let down in the playoffs every year. It's not Josh Allen's fault. And it's like, well, excuse me, sir, who is the person that's carving up the Bills defense? Oh, Patrick Mahomes. That does sound like he might actually be the better player. But I do think the postseason success, I mean, he won his MVP with Joe Brady. When he took over that job, they fired their previous OC. Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator of one of the greatest college football teams of all time. He helped Joe Burrow be a number 1 overall pick. The offense had, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Like, that's crazy, right? So I will say that I do think like Joe Brady's no scrub, and I think Joe Brady will be a head coach here pretty soon because of the relationship he had with both Burrow and now Allen. People are going to want that. People are going to want to pair their rookie quarterback or whatever with that. But I do get kind of what you're saying, like, oh, he even did it with Matt Nagy. There is a certain point, and we've talked about this with Mahomes before too. All right, well, let's see what he does without Tyreek Hill. Oh, he wins the MVP and 2 more Super Bowls. All right, well, let's see what he does without Travis Kelce. Okay, well, he's got Andy Reid cooking up the plays. Let's see what he does without it. It's like at some point, he might be good, guys. Like stop setting up imaginary trophies that he has to win whenever you don't set that up for other people, right? Like I never hear people discrediting Matt Stafford's Super Bowl because he had the Triple Crown winner Cooper Kupp that year, right? Or that Aaron Donald was on that defense, or that Sean McVay is really good at cooking up plays. People just enjoy the Super Bowl that the Rams won. I think the fact is that when we get into the conversations of greatest of all time, comparing him to Tom Brady, those type of things, that's where it starts to happen a little bit, where we start getting the sense of like, oh, well, we've got to tear him down.
I want to push back to just slightly on the Bills thing because I think Josh Allen is awesome. He's a great quarterback, but he, for whatever reason, gets like no blame for any of these losses. When you forget that at least in 2 of these playoff games, the Bills had the ball late in the fourth quarter, and one game, I think it was the Tyler Bass missed field goal. It was late in the fourth quarter, and they were stopped. Josh Allen couldn't get it done, and then last game too, they say, oh, it's the drop. Kincaid dropped it. Arrowhead has the highest drop percentage in the NFL in night games. And this is documented, and there's a tweet that I just went and re-looked up recently.
Crazy. So I didn't know that. That's awesome.
He got on that key down and threw up a prayer to Kincaid. So some of that is, okay, let's credit Spags because he's freaking good. But some of that it has to be on Allen too. And that's where the Mahomes conversation, I just think, takes things to a new level. When the game's on the line, fourth quarter, one drive, you get one quarterback. Who are you picking? They're going to pick Patrick Mahomes. And if they tell you they won't, they're lying.
Oh, I totally agree. And something that drives me crazy about it is the revisionist history of some of these games. They were a field goal away from beating the Chiefs in Buffalo. No, they weren't. They were a field goal away from tying the game with a minute and a half left, and Patrick Mahomes, who had been just churning out yards that whole game. Or another one, Lamar Jackson. If Zay Flowers doesn't fumble that ball, the game is tied. No, it's not. They're still down 7 points. People, or I've even heard people say, you know what, the Texans were really close to beating the Chiefs in the playoffs this year. They forget that Matt Ariza ran out of the back of the end zone to drain clock in that game. That game they were down double digits. Like, it's so often that people just rewrite this narrative to kind of fit the, like, oh, Chiefs only win close games, and that's why this is going to regress and that type of thing. Like, people forget those things all the time. Both very good examples. This year, he had a chance to go down and do it, right? He got the ball back with a chance to go win the game, and he barely got the ball by across the middle of the field. Like, this is reality, right? Okay. Does anyone else have any other like real quick intrusive thoughts that they need to get out before the siren plays?
I think Sky Moore is going to be the starting punt returner.
You stop. Play the siren. Play the siren, please.
Get him out of here. Come on.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but I'm very glad that the Chiefs have the fastest receiver in the NFL to build this offense around.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
I'm also very glad that, Patrick Mahomes got a chance to win MVP with Andy Reid as his head coach, right, Christian?
Yeah. And our offensive coordinator will definitely not become the head coach in the future, for sure.
Cole, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Sorry, we had a little audio lag there, so I talked over. Cole, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us real quick what, where, obviously we know where we can find your videos, but just in case they don't, and then also talk about when you drop a video.
Yeah, sure. Well, I want to say thanks to you guys. I felt like the least I could do is just come on and hang out and talk some Chiefs with you guys because of all the camp practices you were at. You had a lot of good footage. You let me use your footage in some of my videos. Absolutely. So I was just really appreciative of you guys just being there, kind of being the boots on the ground for a lot of Chiefs fans who couldn't end up making it out. So heck yeah. As far as where to find me, how about those Chiefs, HBTC on wherever, any of the platforms? And I don't have a video schedule. I just drop as many as I humanly can every single day or close to it. So just the more the merrier. And we try to put out as much quality content as we can. There's a lot of great content creators in the space. So I'm just one of many options. So I think my bread and butter is just shorter videos, more content. I just try to pack that in, just short 10, 15-minute videos rather than like an hour-long podcast. But hey, everybody likes to consume Chiefs content in their own way. And there's plenty of great guys doing good work, including you, both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I will definitely say, like, the thing that I think make your videos so good is that they're very accessible to all people. Like, the people that reach out to me, they'll be like, oh, hey, I saw you on How About the Chiefs. There are people like, you watch YouTube videos about the Chiefs, but because it is a no spin zone, that it is very factual, and you do a good job of mixing in, like, you're not sitting there being like, oh, this was a 15-yard completion over expectation per DVOA or whatever. You do a good job of mixing the stats, but like, I feel like, ideally my mom, who big listener of the show, love you, Mom, would watch your show and actually be able to come away with something. And then when my mom goes, sweetheart, would you stop talking about their arm lengths? We don't really care about how long their arms are, So you do a great job of making content that's accessible to all fans. And hey, that's what this is about, right? That's what makes this space so good. Lord knows ESPN's not churning out good content anymore. So power to the content creators, power to the people. Christian, thank you so much.
Except for Nate Taylor. Hey, except for when Nate Taylor is doing something now. We could lump some quality Chiefs takes with Nate Taylor since he's with ESPN.
You know what? You're right. I was meaning more of the good old
the talking head shows. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Interview? Are you dissing a Drewski interview? Really? Okay.
Yes. I think my favorite part of that interview, I don't know if you saw, was the girl who is co-hosting the show was like, oh, a Shadur Sanders jersey when it's a number 20 Barry Sanders jersey.
That was crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Burn it all down to the ground. But speaking of burning, we will be on fire here at Arrowhead Addict all week. We've got a show every single day of the week. We will have pre and post game for a game that Patrick Mahomes will play in. So hopefully it's a little less of a misery factory as the Chiefs play the Bears on preseason this Friday. Shout out to Christian for showing up and being here. You got practice right after this, don't you?
Oh yeah, yes sir. Okay,
right after this. make those kids run some up downs, make sure that they drink out of the garden hose, all the things that we had to do when we played high school football.
Oh,
And
bear
then
crawls are on the itinerary. They definitely will be.
bear crawls in this weather, is it turf with the rubber?
Oh yes,
That's
yeah, it's
cruel and unusual. And Cole, thank you so much for joining us. We super appreciate it. That's going to be it from us here today. Shout out to producer Sean, who did a great job today with a really tough episode with the guests and all the sound effects. Excellent work, Sean. That's going to be it from us here at Arrowhead Addict. As always, go Chiefs.